Hello, history enthusiasts. Welcome to yet another book review video as part of our series called Itihasa Sahitya Darshan. It is an honor and pleasure to have with us today Mr. Ripunjay Kumar Thakur. He is a PhD research scholar from the Department of History, Faculty of Social Sciences, University of Delhi. I welcome you, Ripunjay, on behalf of myself, Nidhi, and the history enthusiast family. Welcome. I also welcome our members of the audience who have continuously supported us and have always been actively participating in all our academic endeavors. And I also want to welcome my friend, Vice President of the History Enthusiasts and the co-host of the session, Ms. Nidhi Katti. Welcome you all. Before beginning the book review, the two very interesting book titles today. Uh, First one, Dara Shukoh, the man who would the man who would be king, by Avik Chanda, and the second book is Supriya Gandhi's The Emperor Who Never India. So both very interesting titles.
माथा पर थोड़ा मच्छर है
Uh, we are looking forward to we are looking forward to this book review. I request Ripunjay to briefly introduce himself and then introduce these books to us.
Thank you. Thank you, History Entire Society. I'm feeling very privileged to be here to talk on some, rare and very relevant books. I'm a research scholar in the Department of History, University of Delhi, and I have completed my MPhil also from the same department on the political and cultural history of Parliament Mithila. And I, since 2015-16, I have been, participating in many excavations, archaeological excavations, and projects, and I have written 10 to 12 research papers, which are available on my academia account and ResearchGate account. I'm a scholar. I'm a researcher of intellectual tradition of India. So when we talk about Dara Shukoh, then we do not remember him in our memory, in our tradition as a warrior, but we always consider him as an intellectual personality who paved the way for harmony, communal harmony, the intellectual harmony, and the tradition which the Indian subcontinent has been witnessed. That is the Vad Shastra Parampara. And we see that after the Sultanate period in North India, it was the Mughal period when the debate tradition again was reimagined and was explored, and it began with the reign of Akbar and ended with Dara Shukoh. Uh, Dara Shukoh is very relevant for our contemporary period because he is considered an intellectual who tried to bring an ethos which evolved after exploring the agents of many sects for that thing, for that what we say, for that agents we are known in the world. Dara Shukoh, as an intellectual, wrote several works, including Majma'ul Bahrain and Sir Akbar. So basically, you translated Indian text. I will call it Indian text because you know it was a tradition, Upanishadic tradition, and other traditions as well. And Dara Shukoh translated them into and commissioned to translate them into in Persian language. And it was the 17th century CE, which witnessed for you know uh, a period which was not much economically it was fine, but intellectually comparative, if you compare it to the other parts of the world, then we see that we are more about we are more made for discussion things and more for ideas, but not for the implementation of the ideas. Here I am emphasizing the term prayoga. Dara Shukoh was the intellectual, was a person who wanted to make his intellectual power to make the society, Indian society, a we can say that it was well, not learned, but pandita. He wanted something that was unique intellectually. Today, I'm talking about the emperor who never was. It's written by Supriya Gandhi. It's a wonderful book, wonderful work on Dara Shukoh and for its period. This book gives a wonderful introduction where the author talks about Dara Shukoh's relevance today. She starts with a very impressive passage. Dara, the author starts as inverted comma. The prosecutor is unrelenting in his cross examination. Dara Shukoh tells us, Dara Shukoh, tell us, are you a secret Sikh? And then, so you believe, frankly, Prince, that the Hindu faith is as validated as the Muslim faith? Then Dara Shukoh defends his ideas. Who cares which door you open to come into the light? So, this sentence makes the essence of our culture. A prince who was born and brought up in a Muslim family, but thinks so broadly. I'm not saying that Islam has not a broad perspective of cosmological idea, but it's a tradition where he evolved and he thinks like this. Seems that he was doing something different from others. So the author of this book, in the introductory part, writes about that how Dara Shukoh is a relevant part of our history nowadays, and how different writers, different drama artists are doing work on Dara Shukoh, and how Dara Shukoh is in our living tradition, how his ideas are in our living tradition, and how his ideas are flourishing. Then then writer talks about the sources. As I have already mentioned, two sources in the beginning of my talk. So several sources Gandhi mentions, and author also talks about the Mughal court and the kingship strategy, kingship, his family life, his life as a warrior, his life as an intellectual, his life as an aesthetic. All the things we find as an introductory part in the introduction, and then it also more or less gives an idea of the whole book, that what writer has tried to demonstrate through the different sources, and the language is so we can say that is impressive and very simple. Oh, the technical terms are also well defined in the book. And then the chapter first starts with the name of the chapter is Empire. So this chapter starts with Jahangir, Dara Shukoh's grandfather, and then the history of the dynasty of Mughals starts, and the author also tries to show that how the Rajputana kings, dynasties, and Mughal dynasties, and some other contemporary dynasties were playing an important role in the political culture, political literary culture of North India in 17th century CE. And then we see that how paintings can be an important source of the historiography. And the book has several wonderful paintings, and they are the illustrations of Shah Jahan, Dara Shukoh himself, Jahangir, and Dara Shukoh's gurus, many gurus, and his meeting with pandits. So these paintings are there, which makes the book more relevant and sourcefully appropriate for reader. And this is how the writer is very clear that what the intention is behind the writing of this book is, as the author writes, Dara Shukoh. When it comes to the term Dara Shukoh, writer translates it majestic as Darius. So uh, generally we pronounce generally we say Dara Shukoh, but here author is very much engaged with the name in itself, Dara Shukoh. I'm not well versed in Persian language, but what it is written in English, I'm talking on the basis of these English sources. Uh, the first chapter gives a detailed account of the imperial family and their rule, and the prince life, and the courtier's life, intellectual developments in the 17th century CE, and how it was somehow a part of the tradition which had evolved in India since the Vedic phase. And then we see that the author of this book is very much inclined to prove that how intellectual tradition of the 17th century was led by Dara Shukoh with a very, a unique idea. Then talks about in the third chapter his youth days, when he marries, and when he becomes father, when he becomes attractive prince, he becomes intellectual, and he becomes you know when he attacks towards asceticism, and he wants to be in talk with several saints, and he talks with the scholars from different sects, and many of the scholars were from the Vedic culture, and he was influenced from Upanishad also. Then the fifth chapter is then the fourth chapter is about disciple discipleship. So as the name of this chapter is discipleship. So it clearly shows that this is the period when his elder sister Roshan Ara, he himself and his father, how his father Shah Jahan introduced him to some influential Sufi saints who were great scholars of their time, and then they came and then he came in contact with some great scholars of Vedic tradition. Then how he proceeded the commission of translating the Sanskrit texts like Bhagavad Gita and Yoga Vasishta. Then after this chapter discuss his intellectual contribution uh, to the history of India, and then fifth chapter talks about the succession war. Uh, this is the chosen. The name of the chapter is the chosen. So it is about that how Dara Shikoh, Aurangzeb, and their brother uh, were trying to be influential in the court, and how they were appointed governors, they were handling administrative assignments, and how they were engaged in some military campaigns, and they played a very important role, and they were some to a large extent very successful warriors. Darashiko, although was not much involved in military campaigns, but yeah, but he was a great support of his father, and he always advised his father along with his sister Rosnara. Then it comes to mission, the chapter 6. So mission chapter mainly talks about that how they fight for Kandahar, and Dara Shikoh's plays very important role, and how Dara is how Dara is proving his um, quality to be a king, right? And his idea of kingship. Then confluence comes. Then the seventh chapter is confluence, where we generally see that the author has used several sources to understand the process, the nobles, and how the nobles were playing important. How they were a part as a tool of a big strategy, and they were somehow we can say that Aurangzeb misguided them to some ways. Then the eighth chapter is greatest secret. So as we see, we all know that there are some royal secrets. There are some strategic secrets, and in the medieval time there was no so we are talking about the Mughal period, Mughal administration, Mughal regime. So it was not the democratic. So it was the play of sword and blood. So things were happening there, and in the race of in the race of succession, brothers were fighting to each other. And then conclusion parts comes with the effect of the agents of the whole book, that how sources, most of the sources uh, are yet neglected in the historiography of India, because um, we all know that some figures are there who have contributed immensely in making of India what we say nowadays, the modern nation state. But we have our historiography is evolving day by day. uh, by decade. But now it's time to explore more. As Dara Shukoh himself explored the light, and he said, "Who cares which door you open to come into the light? The same light we should search for." Thank you.
Um, I think Ripunjay has gone offline. He has completed the review of the books. Nidhi, can you please ask him? Was there any technical issue or?
Yes, I'll ask him because there is a question also in the chat box, so I'll ask him.
Did he mean to sign off?
There was some network issue, I guess, so that's why Mr. Ripunjay has gone off. He'll join soon.
All right, no issue. He's there.
Hello. He has some network issue nowadays, and I'm not using your Wi-Fi.
Not an issue. We have some questions in the chat box, Ripunjay. It was really a wonderful book review. And after hearing to your book review, we both felt that we should also go and purchase those books and read. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Nidhi ji, and thank you, Mumaya.
Okay, there is a question. Manali, can you read it out?
Yes, I can read one question in this book. His Persian works mentioned. Yes, yes, his Persian works are mentioned.
Okay.
And
There is
if
one.
yes,
Yeah,
yes,
you were telling
just tell.
something. You can continue.
Just if someone wants to ask me on email, then I can answer them on email also. This work based on secondary sources of prime. No, the work. This is well researched book, so has consulted both primary as well as secondary sources.
Yes.
Yes.
These two questions were there from our chat box. It was really a
Thanks.
wonderful session, Punjay. Thank you so much. And surely we will also try to read those two books, me and Manali. And all the members of the History Enthusiast group, I request them also to purchase the book. Or else, if you find it in library, please go and read these two books. Uh, Thank you so much. We will just wait
Good.
for Manali. I guess there is some technical issue with her network. We will wait for her. Once she joins, we will take the vote of thanks. So, anything you want to add on regarding Dara Shikoh here?
Actually, we should be careful when we talk about the 17th 18th century North India, because usually what happens that we become a tool of political agenda. So we need to be think freely and not to be fit into any agenda and we need to think freely, independently, and that and it's not with only with the history of Mughal India, but with other history also. We should think a prince, a ruler as a scholar also, is if she is a scholar. So nowadays, historiography is very, our historiography, Indian historiography especially, is very conscious about it, because whenever we talk about any king, and then we see that if any king is contributed intellectually, then we consider him as a scholar. So now it's a duty of our generation to consider kings. If kings are a scholar, then uh, consider them as a scholars also, not just a rulers. Rulers are okay, but intellectual contribution is also significant for our history. Thank you.
Absolutely. We have to definitely, since after writing history for so many years, after having such a huge, uh, vast body of literature on history, our approaches, our dimensions of study should expand, instead of looking at a particular thing from one point of view only. That is, for many years in our history, we have focused on the political uh, history only. We have focused on the
Yes,
kings, the nobles, and even the queens have been neglected for that matter. The male
it's true.
authority figures have been point of focus so many years. So this was a very novel approach, and we really appreciate uh, you for introducing this very interesting books to us. I just want to ask one question here. Uh,
Please ask.
what is the uh, what is the main difference between the two books? Like, what is there any
See,
strengths approach?
uh, the Emperor Who Never Was by Supriya Gandhi is a totally, you know, a research book. While other is book for general readers. But uh, I can't be, very much inclined with my this statement. So it depends on reader and on the intellectual capacity of
Okay,
a scholar who reads this book. Yes,
that's great. We should definitely find out after reading it. I'm very much inspired to read those two books, both of them. I tried to get those when you had mentioned, but I have still not got them. I'll definitely read them soon.
thank you.
Uh, yes, so I think we have come to the end of this book review session. We have to meet you again tomorrow. There's a talk. So I want to inform the viewers. We have a lecture tomorrow by Ripunjay, and it is on Shakti traditions of early Bihar. We are looking forward to it. I am sure it will be as interesting as today's session. Nidhi has shared the brochure here of tomorrow's lecture. Uh, one second, this is of today's. Yeah, there it is. So tomorrow's lecture at 7 p.m. Live on the YouTube channel. We will share the link soon. But having come to the end of today's session, I request Ms. Nidhi Katti to propose a vote of thanks.
Thank you, Manali. Uh, Ripunjay Kumar Thakur. It was a really very interesting book review session, and we get to know a lot about Dara Shukoh. Whereas our mainstream history pages have ignored Dara Shukoh mostly. So many of the students of history, they don't know much about Dara Shukoh. We know about Aurangzeb, but we have ignored Dara Shukoh. Thank you so much for introducing us to Dara Shukoh today. So this is a new step towards understanding intellectual history of medieval India. Thank you so much for accepting the invitation of the history enthusiast. Thank you so much. And I also thank Ms. Manali Mumaya, President of the History Enthusiast, for being supportive co-host of this session. Thank you so much. And I also thank all the audience who watched this session. Thank you so much for your support, and stay tuned for tomorrow's lecture 2 by Ripunjay Kumar Thakur on Shakti tradition in Bihar. Thank you so much. Have a great weekend. Have a good night. Thank you.
Good night, Nidhi. Thank you, Ripunjay, once again. We are signing off here. See you all tomorrow. Bye.
Thank you, thank you, Nidhi, thank you, Monali, and